Mars. How much do we really know about this little red planet? Our special guest today has spent countless hours analyzing thousands of photos and anomalies of what we now call the red planet. But is it really red like we see on the surface? Or could it be that someone or something is hiding the real truth from us? What if we could breathe there? Could a native species already be living there? And what do we know about the third alternative and breakaway civilizations? Could super advanced 3D printing create life-sustaining tools on Mars? Let's find out right now on the Edge of Wonder.
Hey guys, we're with an awesome guest right now, Billy Carson from forbiddenknowledge.com with the number 4. And we just finished with our series with Waking the Collective with Busy Gold, who sponsored this whole thing. And it was a kind of a small group of people that we got together and just kind of shared our experience and kind of see where we can go from here. And actually it was a really amazing weekend. I think all of us had.
It was amazing. I was so glad to be a part. I was so happy that
Billy,
she
let's
gave
get
me
into
the invite.
this.
She told me a little bit about what
that you
the
were
Waking the
talking
Collective
about
was really going to be
weekend
about. I was like, wow, I'm really looking forward to getting
a lot
out
of
here,
new information
seeing if I can
that
drop some
Roger
comments
totally blew our minds.
on some people that are really looking to receive some information.
I mean, it looked like meticulous, like you really had to like dig to find this stuff, and it was really fun to watch you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun actually. So tell us a little bit about this new information that you know. I mean, you went in so many things. So why don't I just let you talk?
Well, Mars, at the end of the second presentation, I went into the Mars Anomalies, which were really like anomalies in our solar system, because I showed a couple of the planets as well. But Mars primarily has the majority of the anomalies because we've sent the most rovers and space probes to Mars. We've literally spent trillions, we as a civilization on Earth, spent trillions of dollars sending probes and rovers to Mars and satellites as well. And we've come back with well over 1 million images. And luckily, due to the Freedom of Information Act that was kind of really forced on NASA, because they weren't really giving these images out, we were able to finally start to begin years ago to start downloading these images and analyzing them. So it's a group of us, 14 of us all together, that we've come together in this group called the United Family of Anomaly Hunters. And we literally analyze.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a great group. I mean, these people are like, I started doing my anomaly hunting, and then I started bumping into a few others that were really serious about finding these anomalies on these other planets. And I said, we need to just join forces, become one group under one umbrella, so that we can really maximize our efforts and get this information out to the public. And that's exactly what happened. So out of 1,100,000 images, we got about 58,000 anomalies.
I mean, do you get tired looking at all of those images? Because man, it's so hard because, some of the images that you were showing, we'll show some right now, that, you have to kind of like, it's not like these things just appear. I mean, everything's the same monotone color, and you really have to get in there and study stuff before you start seeing some of these weird things. I mean, what was that like for you guys?
It's a little bit of a process. So the first thing you do is when you pull down an image off the server, you bring it into your photo software so that you can magnify it. The best tool to use is a real old-fashioned magnifying glass.
Really?
Yeah, better than the computer.
Really?
Yeah, you don't get that much distortion when you use a magnifying glass. And you can really just literally analyze centimeter by centimeter by centimeter. It can take 4 or 5, sometimes 6 hours, sometimes a couple days to really analyze one
photo
image.
So I started doing it, especially when we were working on the Mars episode. And just one image, and I was like, wow. This is like, I was like, we just don't have time for this.
Yeah, it's very time consuming. What you're looking for is something that doesn't appear to fit in with the surrounding terrain. And when you find them, then you mark it, and you continue to go and you mark and you mark, and then you go back and you analyze all the ones that you think didn't fit in. Some of them are just rocks, some of them are question marks, and some of them are things that, there's geometry, they resemble things that we think we recognize on Earth or something similar, So those are the ones that we focus on. So it kind of goes through this funneling process. From there, the next step is to take it into your image editor and just take away the contrast, take away the NASA false color. That's what they call it false color. Take away that red filter and then see what's there. And then when you think you have an anomaly, then we pass it on to each other and analyze. Everybody analyzes it together so that we see, are we on the same page? Are we all assuming that this is something that appears to not belong? And then when we get that consensus, we catalog it.
Okay, so Billy, you just mentioned the red tint that NASA's adding to the photos. That's kind of strange to mention that. So can you tell me a little bit about this red tint? Like, I thought Mars was red, or are they adding something to this? What is going on?
They're making Mars more red. Mars is really not that red. As a matter of fact, a lot of new images have come forward from NASA where they have not included the false color. Just recently, now that they've been talking about the water that they found, the 12,000-mile lake, and all the tons of water, the billions of tons of liquid water. Now they showed a mountain on a press release with water coming down the side of the mountain. So now they're starting to slowly disclose that Mars has liquid water, you know, and soon it's going to be probably microorganisms and so forth and so on as they're building up. But they've now taken it. But back at the time where most of these images came in, they were really putting this false color filter on, claiming that it made it easier to transmit the images and take away shadows. But it made it worse.
Yeah. I mean, and more confusing and probably harder for you guys to look through those. I mean, also, like, I saw a couple of these images that were of the normal color, and it actually didn't look much different than Earth terrain. I mean, it almost looked like it could be desert somewhere in Middle East, or I mean, in America and Arizona even.
Even Arizona or Santa Barbara, California.
Yeah.
The color, the true color, they have some true color images now that you can download in high quality JPEGs, and you literally are looking at a planet the way that we look at the sky is blue because of light. You know, the light basically hits the atmosphere and does the same thing it does here. It scatters, and it gives you that blue effect. Because from the surface of Mars, the sky is blue. There's clouds, there's dew, so you can see the morning dew on the rover from the images. Yeah. You know, and there's wind, there's rain, there's a complete water cycle on the planet. Now, before they were saying that there wasn't any magnetic field, but now there's a magnetic field.
Interesting.
And now, because even though it's not as strong as Earth's magnetic field, but because of the spin of the planet on its axis and its orbit around the sun, it creates something called bow shock. So this bow shock bends cosmic rays around the planet, not allowing so much radiation to get to the surface. So based on the science data that's come back, if you're only 3 feet away from the surface, it's actually breathable.
Whoa.
Really?
Yeah.
So people could breathe on Mars then.
That's right.
So actually, that actually raises another question is, you know, and there was that movie with Matt Damon when he was in Mars.
The Martian.
The Martian. He had, like, you could tell that the suits that they had on were like much less than the huge astronaut suit. Do you think that that's accurate? Would you need something like that still, or could you just walk out and start breathing air?
You would need an acclimation time period, and I believe that just based off some of the science data that comes from the REMS data from satellite transmission back to Earth, that it's probably more like being 15 or 16,000 feet above sea level on Earth. So there's probably an acclimation period. At certain times, it will drop to, you know, very cold temperatures, but in the summer, it could be 98 degrees at the equator.
Really?
Wow. This is real science data that's come back. It's even, you know, it's on official site. So this is real science data. So, and there was a newspaper clipping that came out that said that Detroit and Michigan last winter was warmer than Mars.
Wow. That's
in the winter.
Yeah.
So what's happening is this disclosure is coming forward, and it really starting to break down. And I believe that if you're on Mars and you go through an acclimation period, at some point you might be able to breathe if you're very close to the surface.
So one other thing I want to bring up is recently it looked like there was an actual volcano that erupted on Mars.
Yeah.
Now, of course, NASA...
The smoke was coming out.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
NASA was saying it was an ice cloud, but this happened to form right over the biggest volcano that is on Mars, and it literally spanned for pretty much a quarter of Earth, or of Mars. The distance of it was like a quarter of the planet that the smoke went out to. What's your interpretation of what's happening there?
I believe that there's real geological activity on Mars. When you analyze the Mars equator, you discover that the planet has apparently had 2 pole shifts. So one pole shift probably happened if you look at the Anomalies and the 7 Types of Creation, when you go into the fact that you're talking about Mars being a moon of this other planet named Tiamat, which collided with a rogue planet that came through our solar system in ancient times, billions of years ago. But what side of Mars that was facing this planet, which is now the asteroid belt, a lot of that debris hit Mars, and that's why one side of Mars is charred and the other side is very smooth.
Interesting.
If you really analyze it, you see it's like, wow, it's like, it's like half is charred and half is smooth, and you realize that probably the weight of that debris tilted the planet, caused a global flood, caused a catastrophe. But then I believe the planet began to heal and come back. But when you look into now other ancient records from Earth, you start to hear about Mars being the god of war.
Yes.
And some of the material that we went over tonight about the Atlanteans, I truly believe that this pyramid war that occurred in those times, which is kind of like even talked about in the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, some other ancient texts, all keep mentioning this sky war that was going on. These Atlanteans, or these Anunnaki people, were not global but also interplanetary. And I believe it stemmed from Earth to the Moon to Mars and maybe even beyond in our solar system in ancient times, but that there really was a war between these factions, and I believe that Mars got the worst of it.
Wow.
But there's still geological activity going on there right now. The planet is trying to make another comeback.
Wow, that's amazing.
Do you wonder?
What about right now? Like, what's going on Mars right now? I mean, do you believe that there's people on there?
Yeah.
Is there, is there an actual, what's the word I'm looking for?
Breakaway civilization.
Breakaway civilization, colonies, and actually native species that are.
Good question. I truly believe that number one, there is a native species still on the planet right now. Just based off of some of the data and the images we've analyzed, you saw some tonight. There's one that looks like some type of a
Golem-ish thing.
Yeah, these things
Troll
are very trolly looking, strange looking entities. Now they could just be rocks, they could be statues, or they could be
troll looking weird things.
Yeah. And the thing about them is, why are they looking? They're always looking at the camera.
Yeah.
So no matter what angle a rover is in, or it's always like the heads are turned, and
Well, and how many of those photos did you find of those things? Because I saw maybe 3 tonight where it looked like they were actually a species of some kind of thing, and they had recognizable features across all 3 of those photos.
They have dozens.
Yeah, really?
Dozens of them.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we have some statues or things that look like statues. I can't say that they are, but they appear to be. They've made it to TV. They made it to Ancient Aliens and other newscasts as well. And then we have things that look like vehicles, a lot of vehicles, believe it or not. Some that look more advanced than what we have here, and some that look less advanced than what we have.
Billy, I saw a couple that looked like either like tents or almost like boxy kind of architectural or some kind of...
like dilapidated mobile homes.
Yeah, like exactly,
Right.
actually. Yeah, like dilapidated mobile homes.
You can tell that structure looks like it had a mud flow that happened. Maybe it was caught in a mudslide or a mud flow or a complete flood, and it just ended up stopping on top of that big boulder. But it definitely has geometry, 90-degree angles, things that we could recognize here on Earth as windows and doors and so forth. So if it's a rock, it's very strange looking. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So what about the breakaway civilizations
Yeah.
and what's really going on in Mars, like right now, today?
Yeah.
What do you think?
There's a book that came out a long time ago in the 60s called Alternative 3. Very hard book to find.
Yes.
You have Alternative 1 was in case the Earth was going to be overpopulated and so forth, that they would try to destroy all the debris and everything else by blowing up a nuke in the atmosphere and letting all the pollution out. That was just a bad idea.
Terrible idea.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I know. Another was to try to reduce the population. Another was to also have a breakaway civilization and go to Mars. That was the number one choice, and I truly believe that it occurred. Police officers were coming forward in the 70s that were going to people's houses that were claimed to be missing. Prominent people, physicists, rocket scientists, geneticists, biologists, anthropologists, missing. Some left letters behind literally saying, I left the planet for a better life. Some even abandoned their own children. And then you look at also a lot of the missing children cases. The number is consistent almost every single year. And I think that it's very possible, I'm not saying for sure, that some of these people, these kids, end up on another planet in breakaway civilization doing a lot of the grunt work.
I was going to say, some people call them slaves, slavery.
Right.
Slavery.
So, and we just did a series on missing kids, you know, especially in national parks, because there is tons of missing kids. It doesn't have to be kids; it's just people. So many people missing in national parks, and the U.S. government keeps no record on the people missing. And I know Corey Good is one of the people that have come out and has talked about that. This exactly what you said.
Oh, wow.
Some of these people have been taken. Could be one scenario is that, you know, sex trafficking, human trafficking, and off-world stuff as well. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. So I really believe that they're there helping build the infrastructure. You have the guy in Japan, the businessman in Japan who's doing the 3D printed houses. I think he can print 10 to 12 houses a day. That technology, there's something very similar, an anomaly that's kind of very similar on Mars. And I think that they're using this regolith that's already on Mars, there's the soil and everything else, and using it to 3D print houses.
So, why? I mean, I understand some of this, but why do you think they would hide this information from us? I mean, what good does it do to hide the fact that we have the technology to be there, that there's trillions of dollars missing from the different government institutions? But obviously, if you look into that, there's just a lot of questions. Like, why hide that from us?
There's 7.5 billion people on Earth, and if they discover that there may be a geological disaster, a collapse of economic systems, or just a general worldwide situation that would cause us to maybe be exterminated, and a certain amount of people have the ability to get out of here, everybody's going to want to get out of here. Like, why is he getting ahead of me? Why am I not getting picked, but that person's getting picked? They want a very specific bloodline to continue, and this is what I had talked to Laura Eisenhower about before, because she had talked about being recruited to Mars. That's Dwight D. Eisenhower's great-granddaughter, and she was almost kind of really exercised from the family because of coming up with this information, put herself in jeopardy with her own family, but she sticks to it that they recruited her to go to Mars in 2006. They actually sent a handler after her, and it was like, I'm going to be your boyfriend. She actually really did fall in love with this guy, but he had a covert operation. That was his job, to get her to fall in love with him until he could convince her to go to Mars, and she wouldn't go. But the fact remains that not only her, but other people now, a lot of people have come forward and admitted that there's probably a breakaway civilization there, and maybe even we were already there in a very small group when Kennedy said we want to go to the moon.
Interesting. Yeah, we love Laura Eisenhower. She's been on the show so many times, and she's talked about these kinds of situations too. So it's just, she's incredible, and her story is really powerful. But real quick, I want to go back. So you said 3D printing houses on Mars. Can you go a little bit more into that? Because when you said that, I was like, what? Okay.
We have become so advanced with 3D printing now. I mean, we can 3D print lungs, brains, hearts, guns. A friend of mine that was a business partner in a project that I did, which was underground base, he lived in an underground shelter that the United States military had owned, and he basically told me about a 3D printer that can print an entire Jeep. Every part, every wire harness, every bolt, every screw, every nut, everything needed to literally put a Jeep together and drive out of the shelter was down there.
Wow.
So now we've got them on the space stations. So if something happens on the space station, no more shipping, sending another rocket ship up. We can just create the tool and create the part and fix it ourselves.
But hang on a sec, you said hearts and veins. So do you, are these like organic?
Organic, biological material, 3D printed.
So are they 3D printing people?
Well, what I've heard is
I don't know, but if you can think it, they probably have done it.
But what I've heard is that they can actually use your own DNA to So for example, if you need something, they can use your own DNA, 3D print along.
What they'll do is they'll take a skin cell, and then they'll turn that skin cell into a stem cell. So no more need for embryos. From that point, then they can create a certain amount of material, whatever they call it specifically in science. I don't know what they call that material, but then from there they put it into this lathe and they make this 3D model of whatever you need, and they can convert that cell into a heart muscle, into a leg muscle, into a nerve, into whatever you need, even into a kidney cell.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how long does it take to 3D print like a home, for example? Like
it only takes a couple hours.
Couple hours.
To 3D print the house.
And these must be pretty big printers. I mean,
yeah, it's a big printer.
Huge, right?
Matter of fact, the gentleman that owns this company, I'm sure you put a quick snapshot of the Freedom of Information or whatever, fair use. is he actually even printed his own warehouse, which is a big warehouse. But the machine is pretty big, and it can literally print these houses. It takes a regolith, and even if you want to use garbage, whatever you're using, it takes it, it turns it into this paste, and it literally just makes this design, and it just builds up. It even leaves holes for electric sockets, outlets, and windows and doors.
Goodness.
And boom, 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 you just drop a roof on top, it's done, you move on to the next one.
Wow.
So what's going to happen is Elon Musk is going to go to Mars ahead of everybody else. He's already in agreements with NASA, and he's going to have the tin cans out front, and they're going to wave at the camera. But when the cameras go off, they're going to go behind the hill, and they're going to live like kings.
Fairly confident that we can complete the ship and be ready for a launch in about 5 years. 5 years seems like a long time to me. Yeah. The area under the curve of resources over that period of time should enable this time frame to be met. But if not this time frame, I think pretty soon thereafter. But that's our goal, is to try to make the 2022 Mars rendezvous.
Billionaires are not going to leave this planet and all the creature comforts of this planet and being served and waited on hand in for all these years to go live in a tin can.
No, for sure. But with Elon Musk, you were talking about, I mean, there's a lot of discussions about Elon Musk, the different kinds of things that he's doing. He's got the Boring Company now. He's producing rockets when no one said they could do that. He has technology for cars that he's pushing everything really.
And the batteries.
He's doing the best he can do.
Yeah.
But he still has handcuffs. I mean, there's only so much he can do.
Right.
He's gone ahead of a lot of people. I give him credit.
But do you think that he's tied into these organizations more than we're all aware of? Like, what's your perspective on him?
Well, he probably has signed an agreement with NASA, just like India had to sign an agreement. India only raised $3 million and sent the whole probe to NASA. I mean, to Mars. And the same probe would have cost us probably $30 million or more. So as soon as they did that and sent back a color image of the planet with blue skies and water and everything else in the true color, NASA visited him immediately and made him sign an agreement, and then they deleted the image and put up an image with the red filter on it.
Ah, red filter. Right back at that.
Very interesting.
So, I mean, I'm sure that he's doesn't want to be maybe totally in bed with them, but because they control space, the military-industrial complex, if you want your mission to arrive at its destination without getting blown up, you've got to agree to certain things.
Oh, for sure.
Well, if your mind hasn't been blown yet, make sure to tune in next week for part 2 with Billy Carson, where we talk about, that's right, emerald tablets and what made Billy the man he is today. Plus, here's a special teaser on our next series just for you, only on the Edge of Wonder.
150 years in the making. The ultimate evil specter. Lies, hatred, and struggle. Traditions destroyed. The Deep State's Cult, Communism.
Coming March 2019. Pop my peas and blast my bees and twang my teas, man. Ooh, it's awful for me. It really is. It's like fingers on a chalkboard. I think I narrate my own life even when this thing isn't rolling. Speaking of the last live feed, narrating, I could narrate people's lives. I was like, would somebody pay for that?